On today's episode of the Gripe Session, New York just lost real big when Amazon decided to quote-unquote take their ball and go home. Let me tell you what my take on this is.
It's Gripe Session time with your host, George Wanaka.
It's about nothing.
Discussing everything from real estate, current events, a little bit of everything, and the annoying little things that just tick you off.
You can't handle the truth.
What? You didn't know?
Here's your host, George Wanaka.
Your ass better call somebody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of the Gripe Session. So, as we've talked about in previous episodes, for those of you that don't know who I am, or this is your first time listening, my name is George Wanaka. I am your host for today. I am a real estate broker, appraiser, and mortgage person with Wanaka Realtors in Staten Island. And as this podcast has gone on, we've talked about a variety of different things over the course of the few episodes that we've had. We even did an emergency episode the other day. But today is a little bit different. Today I want to talk a little bit about my home state of New York. And I addressed this today on a Facebook Live. So follow me on Facebook if you haven't already. And my YouTube channel. Search StatenIsland.com. Cheap plugs. And want to talk about the fact that Amazon, the much ballyhooed Amazon headquarters 2, which was initially basically a miracle for New York. I mean, let's be honest. It was bringing all of these jobs to New York. And those of us that live in New York are accustomed to our city and state, quite honestly, not getting any new jobs, not getting any new industry, not getting anything cool. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you know, let's look at the past, right? So the Jets wanted to build a stadium in Manhattan. That went nowhere. Look at my own town of Staten Island. We were getting this big wheel that it was gonna mirror the London Eye, right? And now Amazon was going to Long Island City. I mean, it never ceases to amaze me. Well, first of all, let's be honest. It really didn't cease to amaze me that somehow we got Amazon to come here in the first place. That's the first amazement, right? With all of the ungodly regulations that go on within the city and state of New York, to get a company that's $1 billion company, hold on, let me say that again, is $1 billion company that we are not getting into our wonderful city and state because of, quite frankly, politics. Because of politics. Now, we'll get into the politics of the situation in just a second. But as amazed and bewildered that I was that Amazon decided to come here in the first place, I have to be honest, I really wasn't shocked when they decided to pull the plug. Why? Well, I just mentioned two right off the top of my head. Look at what went on in the Hudson Rail situation. Hudson Yards wanted to build a stadium, world class, Olympic, have the Jets move there, world class facility. Nope, political pressure. Let's bow down. Look at the Wheel. Wheel's another situation. Oh, we started doing all this work and then nope, we can't fund it. It seems like anything that we want to do in this state and city, mind you, I don't want to just take the state into it, but the city as well, is encumbered by nothing more than politics and red tape, etc. And the only thing that we are actually good at as a city and a state is driving people away from our city and our state. And it's sad. It's really, really sad. Especially as somebody who's born and raised in New York. I live here. A lot of my friends have moved off. They've moved out of New York. Some have moved to Jersey. Some have moved further away. Because of the taxes. And because of all of the ridiculous regulations. And everybody sits back and says, oh, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Oh, okay. Well, you know why they say that? I just finally figured out why they say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And the reason being is if you could deal with the amount of crap that you have to deal with to be in business in this city and state, then hell, you can go to some place that's a lot more friendly to your business and make money there and be more well off there. That's just being real. Ask any business person. That's all we do nowadays is deal with this regulation. So now let's get back to Amazon for a second, shall we? So the big thing about Amazon was, oh, they don't treat their workers good, and they don't do this, and they don't do that. Okay? They're not a good partner. Why don't we take those incentives and put it into the infrastructure and the neighborhood and to housing and all of those wonderful things? Not bad points. I admit, not bad points. However, let's stop for a second here, okay? And let's start to really understand if a company doesn't treat their employees well, doesn't compensate their employees well, what happens to that company? Well, it's called marketplace, and it's also called they leave. Period. Oh, they can't leave because they have a job. Okay, they have a job. You need to be able to deal with things when you have a job. You need to be able to figure things out when you have a job. But guess what? Now you don't have a job because 25,000 of them left before they even got here. So why am I griping about this today? Well, I'm going to tell you why. I'm griping about this today, not because I really cared if Amazon came or they didn't come or any of that kind of stuff. Because quite frankly, it didn't necessarily affect me one way or the other. Although it did, because I actually agree with some of the critics of Amazon. Now, before you drop your phone or wherever you're listening to, let me say what I agree with. I agree that money should be spent in infrastructure. I agree that money should be put into the schools. I agree that money should be sent to better off certain areas and to beautify them. But now let's just say what the real situation is, okay? Here's what the real situation is. They didn't like the breaks going to the companies, right? Get it. Fine. Let's put it this way. When you have 25,000 high-paying jobs coming into a neighborhood or an area, there's these things, it's called payroll taxes. They get taken out of people's checks. And if you start to do the math, those payroll taxes is what is looking to pay for your infrastructure and your housing issues and your education issues. And for your big win and like, oh, the people won. Like that new congressperson who just got in who said, oh, the people won. What'd they win? They win a prize? I'm curious. What did they win? Because I see this as one thing. One gigantic loss. One gigantic loss. And I don't necessarily mean it because it's Amazon. I mean, if it was any business, it could have been Joe Smith's Brewery bringing in 100,000 jobs. When you lose jobs, you lose tax base. You can't do the things that you want to do. And all of these wonderful programs that you want to do, whether they're progressive, conservative, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. Political affiliation doesn't matter. And quite frankly, I'm kind of getting a little sick and tired of, oh, well, this is the far left Democrats. These are the far right Republicans. Here's an idea. How about we just start being people that look at what the bottom line is? You know, when we have to look at my checkbook, when I have to look at that every day and balance it, I can't write a damn check for fear that I'm going to balance that's over what I have in my account. So why? Because we have a credit card. Oh, that's right. Let's get addicted to debt, which a lot of people are. You cannot do that with a city and a state. I know they like to do it, but you can't do it. You can't write checks that you can't cash. And unfortunately, that's what we do. But God forbid anybody says, how do you pay for it? And the overall response to everything is you tax the rich. Well, here's newsflash for you. The people that actually know numbers, which is anybody that's taken, I don't know, 5th grade math class, knows that 2 plus 2 don't equal 10. So you have to be able to balance something out. This isn't a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. This isn't a conservative issue. This is just called a math issue. And people need to start understanding this if we're going to make any headway, blah, blah. I'm getting agitated now. Any headway in this country, people need to stop making things Democratic, Republican, or conservative issues. They need to make it common sense issues. Because that's what sometimes seems like is lacking. So, that being said, I'm not real happy that Amazon is leaving, but not for the reasons that people think. It's more of the fact that I think some of these programs might not necessarily be bad things. These investments to our infrastructure. We know we have crumbling subways. Listen, Staten Island doesn't have a way to get to the freaking city, and they're one of the only 5 boroughs that doesn't. So we don't even have a way to get there. We need to improve all of these infrastructure things. You don't do this by chasing business away from a city and a state. It doesn't happen. And for every single person that's celebrating this move, good idea. Go back and look at your history books. You tell me how this works out in a couple of years. So, with that being said, I appreciate you guys that have been listening, you guys and girls that have been listening. It does mean the world to me. I've gotten a lot of very positive responses to this podcast. I appreciate and love every single one of you. Again, you might agree with me, you might disagree with me, but guess what? That's your prerogative, and I'll take it even a step further. I appreciate the fact that some of you guys are willing to let me know this too. I've gotten a bunch of text messages and emails already on some of the podcasts, and I really appreciate them. We're going to be having some guests coming up very shortly, so stay tuned for those. Some people that I think you guys will really want to hear. Not just real estate related, but some of them are definitely real estate related. I got a couple of, as I like to call, heavy hitters getting ready to line up on the interview list. And I got some regular John Q people that we're going to talk about their businesses and how they run through stuff. So it's not just a real estate podcast. It's not just a podcast of my favorite Mets players, although we've already hit a couple of them already. We got some more coming soon, so stay tuned to that. But, you know, I listen to a lot of my colleagues' podcasts as well. One just recent one that I recently subscribed to. So if you haven't listened to it, you got to check it out. It's not a real estate podcast. It's more of a self-help podcast, at least its first couple of episodes. Give them some love if you have an opportunity to listen to them. It's Moving Grains of Sand podcast with my buddy Rory Pitts. Give that man a shout-out if you can. Check his podcast out. Rate and review him. Really good stuff, man. Anytime I'm feeling down and stuff like that, I listen to Rory's stuff, and Man, that guy picks me up. And I'll never forget the first thing that Rory said to me when I met him at the Real Estate Marketing Mind Summit retreat that we had in Park City, Utah. And Rory said to me, and he still forgets it, he still forgets to me that he saw me on social media and looked at me and he goes, you know what? He goes, you're exactly who I thought you were. And I looked, he goes, you could sometimes be an a-hole. And I started laughing because it's funny to me. And he goes, no, but I didn't finish. But you're my kind of a-hole, which was really funny. I started laughing. And Rory and I have been pretty good friends ever since. So check that guy's stuff out. I also want to give another couple shout-outs real quick. My buddy Rick Gonzalez, Modern Agent Podcast. If you're not listening to Rick, Rick's one of the people that's helped walk me through this process of doing this podcast. Check Rick's stuff out. Chelsea Pites, voice of social sales. Chelsea's another one that was part of. All these guys were part of that Real Estate Marketing Minds. That's like a tongue twister, man. I'm Real Estate Marketing Mastermind Summit. Say that 5 times fast. We'll see how that works out for you guys. Chelsea's another one. I could talk about Bromy, but Bromy talks enough for everybody. So we've already shouted Bromy out a bunch of times anyway. Jason Frazier, another one. And I'm actually going to have a competition between the two of them because I heard that Frazier's podcast, on Frazier's interview with another podcast, actually got a lot more listens than Dustin's did. So we're going to see if I can have them both on at different times so we can see who gets more listeners. Is it Frazier's or is it Bromy's? We will have to see. But anyway, again, I appreciate all the love and the support. You guys have been awesome so far. If you like what you're hearing, please tell somebody and let them listen. Let them subscribe, rate and review on iTunes. You'll find me on Stitcher. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on Google Play. Again, appreciate you all. And that's all I got for you today. I don't want to go too much longer because I'm getting agitated just thinking about adding these guys to the list that are celebrating that business has been turned away from New York, and it just doesn't sit right with me. But we move on, and another day, another dollar, and there's more important things to worry about in life: family, business, and your friends. And thank God I got a lot of all of those things. I love my family, I love my friends, and I love the people that listen. Thank you guys all again. You guys have a super fantastic day. Do something nice that you wouldn't normally do. And we'll catch you on the next edition of the Gripe Session.
Thanks for listening to the Gripe Session. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.